Welcome to Broadsword Wargaming. I'm going to show you how to turn your model from this into this without using any chemicals. Hello and welcome back to another video. Yes, this one is something a bit different. It's kind of a hobby tip and something I've learned for the last year to 18 months. And I thought I might pass the information on to you guys. Like yourselves, like all of us do, we all improve on painting, or you buy models secondhand from somewhere and they're painted awful and you want to strip them. So my brother and I actually had huge heresy armies we wanted to strip. I've got Iron Hands, Raven Guard, he had some 30k stuff, I've actually used it on my More Time. So like thousands of pounds worth of models. And rather than sitting there using biostrip and brown Dettol, chemical things that stink and smell, or can melt your plastic or damage your resin, you have to leave them in tubs for 2 days and scrub them with a toothbrush, all that kind of stuff. It's messy, it's dirty, and it takes time. We were looking at alternative ways to do it. So we were looking around on the internet and we found sandblasting. Now this is kind of a big pressurized box. You attach a compressor to it and you have a bit of a gun, a bit like an airbrush. It's normally used to blast tools. So I think you use it to blast rust off stuff or car parts. They're normally quite big. This one's actually only that sort of size, maybe 4 foot. We were looking at those, so we bought the cheapest one we could find, was around £120 new. You have to assemble it yourselves a bit, and you bought a compressor. We got a 50 litre compressor, which actually I'd want bigger, but I bought a 50 litre compressor, a load of grit, which is like sand, and you stick your model in and you just spray them down. So I'm going to show you how I do that and the processes to do it. I'm using Corax, the 30k Primarch. I've actually just done Ferrous Manus as well, because I want to strip them all. And I'm that sure it's good and it works that I'm prepared to do that and show you me doing that, knowing I won't damage the models. I will take you to the blasting box and talk you through it as best I can and show you the best I can. It does get dirty, it does steam up, so the camera angles aren't always ideal for looking at models. I can't put the camera in there because it'll wreck it obviously along with the lens. So I'll show you as best I can the processes of doing it and explain the tools, and then I'll catch you back for a bit of a rundown at the end and my sort of review and things I may do better or things I'd change if I could. So I'll catch you guys in a second. And here is the blasting box in all its glory, or former glory. Mine is a little bit worse for wear. There's tape there where I've tried to fix the gloves. There's lots of additional bits I've made myself, but are quite bodgy, but I'll explain what I've done and why. So do remember to check the description and the model numbers there, and make sure you read the warning stuff. It is quite an industrial kit. Use these gloves. These are the gloves that come with it. Mine are a little bit old now and I will buy some new ones, but you're blasting really high pressure sand and grit and it will take your skin off if you don't. So make sure you're always wearing the gloves at all times. Warning, warning there. This is the gun. This is not the one that came with it. This is actually one I bought additionally. It's metal, it's a lot sturdier and it's a lot better. It cost me £11, I think, from eBay. Do check it out. It's a trigger base there. It's a bit like an airbrush or any other thing. It's a trigger. You have a couple of pipes coming off it. The grey one there, this one goes into the grit. It has a metal end, so you place this in there and that's what it sucks up to blast out the other end and goes onto your toys or whatever you're blowing. So there's a hole there and it just pulls it up as the pressure comes through. The other cable is this orange one. This one goes to the compressor. It attaches to the side of the box, and then there's another attachment on the other side. Make sure there's no holes or leaks in that, because if you pull the trigger, when there's some holes, nothing will come out. So right now it's not turned on, obviously, so I'm fine. But the pressure from the compressor pulls up the grit from this, and that's how it blows it out the front. So you need to make sure this end is buried in whatever you're using, sand, blasting stuff, salt, grit, and that way when you pull the trigger, if there's all the pressure, it will come straight out and go onto your models. The next thing is the extraction. There is a hole here that comes with it, but it's not really enough. You need to be pulling it through. So I used a Hoover just attached quite crudely there to a bit of blue pipe, but it does the job. You can buy extractors, they're quite expensive. I didn't see the point. I just use an old Charles because Henry's sick of sucking. So Charles does the job. And this other end here, this is the other end of the orange cable. The attachment's actually better on the outside, and that goes into Stanley, the 50 litre compressor here, just through the cables and attaches in there. As for the PSI, you want to be running somewhere between 60 and 80, I think. The box is only maximum at 80. You can go to 100 if you want. There's a light switch here. I've attached my own lights. Make sure you use the headphones, but they actually block out the sound because it is very loud, as I'll show you. You get your model, and this is Corax. This is what I'm going to be blowing. He's actually painted reasonably well, but I'm going to repaint everything. So I thought I'll stick him in the box here. You close down the lid, lock the two sides, and get ready to go. I'm trying to be very gentle here and show you as best I can what's happening. I'm currently taking the varnish layer off. So when the models are varnished, they do have a little bit more protection. It takes a while for it to break through. But once you start to get through, as you can see, the black's just coming off there off the base. Once it starts to, if you keep moving the end, do not hold it stationary in any particular position, because otherwise it will potentially damage your model. So if you keep moving it a lot, take off as much of the varnish, and then once you've peeled up a little bit of the paint, you sort of get underneath it as you blast from a particular angle. So if you blast from the side or wherever you're going from, you will start peeling up more paint. And as you can see, it's coming off a little bit easier, a little bit quicker now. I'm at a bit better pressure, relatively close. I'm only a few inches away here, really, but it's starting to come off the base nicely in the legs now. And this is in real time as well, so it doesn't take very long at all. Bigger models obviously do, and the more varnish and the more things there are on them, but Corax is quite a, it's a relatively small model in comparison to a Titan or something else I've done. So it comes off here pretty well. I just keep blasting. The reason I'm waiting here actually is because I'm waiting for the compressor to fill up. As the pressure gets lower from say 80, gets down to 40, 30, it becomes less effective and it takes longer to do things. So let that fill up again. That's why a 50-litre tank isn't really big enough if you're doing this a lot, but it manages as long as you wait for it to fill and blow again, otherwise you're kind of wasting your time blowing on something that doesn't really do the job effectively. So keep at it. I'm going to dunk this in a couple of times as I want to show you the process and the progress of literally how long it takes. This has been a couple of minutes and already I've done half the model. This camera here is beginning to get a little bit gritted up. This is why I'd normally use something else across the top. I'm going straight onto the plastic top here, the Perspex top, but I would actually put another layer of plastic underneath, or I'd tend to put cling film around it actually to protect it. And that way it doesn't get so dirty. Like, it looks like it's hard to see through here, but I've got bright lights shining on it. I've got my camera there, but actually it's not that difficult to see. So I'll let you see what's going on in time, and then I'll go through a couple more times and speed it up and show you the model in between. And oh yeah, if you want to know why you wear your headphones, this is why. That's the sound through the cameras. When I'm there, it's actually deafening, and I'm in kind of a hollow studio space. So do get some headphones, and that again would be why you might want to put a sort of sound booth around your compressor. This is something I wouldn't normally do. I'm trying to make it so you guys can see a bit better, but I wouldn't have to do this if I've got cling film on because it doesn't get dirty. And here's the model. So as you can see, a couple of minutes already, the base has started to clear, the legs have gone off. With a bit more time over those, it will strip, but there's no damage to this model at all, and this has taken a couple of minutes, no chemicals. I'm not even scared of anything. So I'll dump him back in again, and I'll show you in sped up time how I get to the finished result. And this is Corax after the second go in. So now pretty much everything is off here, off the model. I'm not going to do the wings because it is quite strong in it. I don't want to risk snapping them because that could happen. But you can see it's already getting well on its way. So it goes in for a third go. Now, I wasn't actually going to film this bit and show you, but it does happen. And this is the kind of thing you have to keep your eye out for when using any equipment and any tools. And as there are a lot of things that can potentially go wrong. This doesn't happen very often, but this gun's getting a bit old now. So the screw here, if that's not in, the pressure's escaping through the trigger, and therefore it's just not doing anything. It's not blasting very much. It's really low. So I could obviously get tools or better stuff here. There should be a rubber end on that maybe, but because this is a cheap gun, this is what you have to do. You have to keep your eye on stuff. And it stopped blasting, and I figured out that obviously that screw's come loose and I could feel it blasting on my hand. So if I retighten that up, it creates a seal in the gun again, because that's where the pressure's coming through. And without that pressure, it won't suck up the grit and it won't blow it out at full speed, and it'll just take ages to strip your model. Do keep an eye on stuff. If things go wrong, it tends to be something simple like a connector. Sometimes the pressure on the connector in between the box can go, so another duplicate, or you might rip the orange pipe, so you have to cut that a little bit and reattach it. So general maintenance, but this, as I said, this box has been used for 18 months now and gets used a lot. I've done a lot of stripping jobs on this box. I've done armies. I recently did a full Raven Guard army. That took me about 2 weeks. Obviously, I'm not at it every hour, but it could have taken me 40 hours maybe. But I mean, you charge for your time, and I'd say it's a reasonable price, and the customer's always happy. I've got Broadsword model blasting, actually was the page I was using, but because I'm moving now, I probably won't be keeping it up. But maybe I'll pass this on to Luke from Luke's APS or someone, and you could always ask him if he wants to blast some models. We've gone back to normal time. I've finished with the model. I'll bring him up and I'll show you how he looks. So I think he now looks awesome. The base is completely clear. It's completely stripped. I could have gone in again a little bit more, maybe just to
catch those bits. But also, I know I've painted this model, it's just an undercoat on that base, so it doesn't really matter. Undercoat comes off really quickly. But any other details here, look, have come off really well. Throughout the legs, there's no damage to the detail, it's stripped it. So there he is in his full glory. So I'll catch you back in the studio.
Well, there you have it. You've seen the cabinet, you've seen the equipment, you've seen how easy it is. A bit of a rundown on the whole thing. So obviously the cabinet itself, cost-wise, it's about £120. I'd buy the bigger one maybe for 150 quid. You've got the compressor there, you can buy any of those sizes. That's a 50-litre one, but you can buy them for more. You can buy a bigger one. I would rather have a bigger one. The sound is loud. You could get a compressor case that kind of covers the sound in a bit like a soundproofing for it. They're relatively cheap, and I would probably advise that if you're doing this, you know, at home or somewhere. But if you've got a garage or whatever, it doesn't really matter. I have a studio here, so I just blast away whenever I want. Guns, you need to buy, I did buy a new gun. The equipment does wear down, so they have like porcelain endings. You can buy a load of those for a £5. You can buy the new gun I got for like a £10. The grit I use, that's the first bag I bought, and it's starting to run low now. It used to actually be full, but as I blast more and it sucks it away or stuff comes out, the gloves themselves are wearing down. But these things are all cheap, and it's because I've done it a lot. I've not just done a single army. But if you guys are a commission painting studio, or you have a load of mates, or you've got a spare space and you want to make a few pennies, I actually ran this before I had the studio set up, and I've been doing it for about 18 months. And it's made me a few pennies and enough to tick over doing this. But with me moving now and the studio stuff taking up more time, I can't really do it anymore. So I just use it for personal use now. I've done a few big armies, I've done Titans in it, I've done Storm Eagles, I've done all sorts of massive stuff. So I think it's great. And yes, the outlay could be 200 quid. I might use salt next time rather than the grit. It's cheaper, it's, you know, if you're breathing it in, it's not an issue. I wear ear defenders and a face mask generally. It's tight, it's airlocked anyway, and I do normally put cling film around it to save damaging the plastic screen on the top. For that video I showed you without that, because you can see it easier. Just I would normally put cling film around it, and when that wears, strip it again, because you can buy the changeable plastic tops, but they're like 24 quid, so why bother? Just use cling film and tape it on. That's why it's a bit of a mess. But I think it's a great way to strip your models. It's cheaper in the long run, especially for your time. Like BioStrip's just messy and takes ages. So if you've got a few mates or whatever, you could buy one together and strip a load of toys. We spend thousands on these models, and I think that kind of outlay actually means you can buy secondhand models and strip them. I do that all the time. I buy models off eBay that have been painted badly, or off buying trading sites, and just strip them myself. There's no cost, just time. Yeah, I hope you guys have learned something from this video and have enjoyed it. If you have, please put something down in the comment. If you've got any questions, let me know. I can help you set these up. I can offer any advice or anything I've learned for the last while, you know, the PSI settings, stuff like that. Maybe set that to 80. The box, its maximum is 80 in the box, and if you're stripping something very fine, lower it, but generally it doesn't really damage models unless you're holding it in one place for ages. Do not put it in Corax's face at 80 for like a minute, because you will wear the detail away, possibly. If you've liked this video, please like, share, subscribe, and hit the alarm bell for more videos to come. Check down below where you can buy the boxes and the gloves and all that kind of stuff. There's some links down there. I've also got my Luke's APS affiliate link for basing products. I've set up a Patreon now, because this is actually the last video I'm doing in this studio. There'll be more released, but this is the last one I'm filming, because I'm moving over to Ireland in a couple of weeks, and yeah, new studio, new background, new everything. So new lights, I need to buy all sorts of stuff. So please, any way you can support the channel is massively appreciated, because I want to keep putting more content out for you guys and do more battle reports and stuff like this. I think hopefully this video is a handy hint for loads of you. So if you've enjoyed it, let me know, and I will catch you in another video next week. Take care.